Hello, welcome back to the Spider's Web, and in this video we're going to be continuing, as you can see, with the Hollow Crossbowmen. So, what we've done since the last video is, instead of keeping them all the Screaming Skull colour, I've painted all the, what should be flesh, the Nurgling green. So on the net, and then what I've done after that is I've give them a brown wash, so hopefully it's all ready and raring to go. So let's get on with it, shall we? Let's start off with the highlight colour for the chainmail, and in this instance it's going to be not that one. Put that to one side because that's a tripod. Where are you? Where are you? There you were. There you are. This is going to be done with Iron Breaker. Don't want anything really bright for these, so Iron Breaker is just the job. So we'll get this, and it will be done using a dry brush. So we'll get some on the brush itself, wipe it off, so we will get a small amount on the brush, and wipe more off on a paper towel, and then we can just go across and just run over the areas that are going to be metallic. It doesn't matter if we get any on anywhere else. This is why we're doing this bit now, because we are going to be going over with highlights for the other colours. So as I say, at the moment it doesn't matter if we do catch any of those parts. What we do want to do, however, is make sure that all the metallic areas are done. And I mean all the metallic areas. I don't just mean the upper areas, I mean all of the metallic areas. Leave some of the Warplock bronze visible, because that will be needed to show a little bit of depth and a little bit of shadow. So keep filling your brush. And making sure that we have the metallic areas all done. Now when it comes around to these metallic tones for highlighting, all we need to do is just a brighter silvery colour on the raised areas. That's all we need. So do what we can do with this. Keep applying paint where needed, because we want to make it look metallic, not just grey. And this colour is a very, very dark colour, so it doesn't show up incredibly bright. Sometimes it can show up very grey, and that is not the look we're looking for. There we go. And next, let's have a little bit more on the brush. And as you can see, I'm not dipping it in the paint anymore, I'm just scraping off what I'd already scraped off previously. As it gives enough paint that we need. little bit more paint on the brush, not a vast amount, but there's only this fella to go. There we are. And this is it. This is it. This is all we need to do. And that's that for dry brushing. As I say, we are going to be going back and adding a little bit of brighter colour. Not to everywhere, however. I don't want the chainmail to look bright. That's going to be very subdued. I'm keeping that as is, but the top of the arrowhead, or the bolt head, and the top of the helmet is going to be highlighted in such a way, and just move myself forward, highlighted in such a way to make it look brighter. So that's that for this part. Next, what I want to highlight is the skin areas. Now, as we said, we used the Nurgling green, so we're going to use a little bit more of that. Remember, this is a very, 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 very watery paint, and there's not much of it, so I'm just going to pop a little bit onto the palette. There we are. So there's not much of that to go. Into that we're going to put a spot, and I mean a spot of Screaming Skull, which is this colour. We don't want a great deal. We just want to lighten this colour a little bit, not completely destroy this colour. Like that. And using a fine brush, a little bit of water on the brush, you can go into it and just go over some of the raised areas. So, see, some of these areas have started looking brown because of the wash. But don't worry, it's going to look a different colour. And next, as I said, we don't want to put everything the same colour. We want different shades. Highlight, low light, medium and low light. So for that, we're going to have different colours and different shades in it. And there we are. There's not much of this colour to use, so that's why we didn't really need to mix a great deal. And using the side of the brush, we'll go around the fingers. And then we'll just dab on with the point of the brush for the upraised areas. We don't want to go everywhere. As I say, with this, just the areas that are going to be hit by light, and you'll work it out as you go along. It takes a little practice, but some areas won't. If you just take a moment to look, you will see that some areas will stand out as wanting to be highlighted, and other areas shouldn't be. As we say, it just takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of time and experience, and you'll see where things need to be highlighted and where things don't. So we'll just go over the areas that need it. And don't worry if you do catch any areas that you don't think should be highlighted, because it's not vitally important to get everything correct. If you do it in these for I'll show a competition or a display or something, then yeah, you'll need it as a bit more correct than others, and then if you're just using them as gaming figures. As long as they're painted for gaming figures, that's all you really need. I've forgotten I've not done this arm. So I'll just go back to this fella and get this arm done. There we are. That's that for that. Next, what we have is using what colour was it we used? It's Ashen Grey and a mix of Dawnstone. Or was it just Dawnstone? I think it was just Dawnstone. What we'll use, since I did these, I have actually mixed all my paints together, but Dawnstone, when I say mixed all my paints together, I mean jumble them all up again. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what I used and what I didn't use, but I think it was Dawnstone I used for the trousers. And into that we want a paler grey, which in this circumstance will be, when I can find it, Administratum Grey, which is this colour. So I want Administratum Grey, a little bit of that into the Dawnstone, just so it's not as dark. I've mixed a little bit more than I really should have done, but it just may come in handy. There we go. And now, back to our finer detail brush, into the paint, and away we go. So with this we're going to be going over any raised areas, along the trouser, but as I said, we're just looking at getting the areas that are going to be hit by light, not the areas that are going to be in shadow. As you can see, I'm leaving these holes and tears in the trousers because I'm going to come back with a little bit of the Nurgle green a little later. But as it stands, that's that. So we're trying to highlight the trousers, making sure that we focus on the raised areas, as we usually do when we're highlighting. Now, because I've mixed so much of this colour, I can add in just a spot of the Eshin Grey for the tunic, or whatever it is he's wearing, and that will give the highlight colour. So I've not wasted it. And finally this chap, and just again like the others around the areas that are depicting holes in the trousers. Try not to cover all the previous colour, because if you do that it's not going to give it any depth at all. All it's going to give you is just a single colour, a matte colour, not a matte colour, a flat colour, and it's not going to have any depth to it, so it's not going to look right. Always try to, as I say, mix in or change the colour so you can see where the light is and the dark is. And now I'm going back into this colour we previously mixed, just for a short time, while I just add a little bit of this colour into the tears of the trouser so you can actually see its leg rather than anything else. There we go. Because we don't want it looking as though it's you're wearing too lots of trousers. The holes go right through to the skin, or what skin there would be, and with having grey underneath it's not hampered the colour. As you would think, because you're just painting over a greyish colour, which, you know, can only help. And finally your chap here, and there we are. That's all there is for that bit. Next, as I said, we're going to be using a little bit of Eshin Grey in with the grey mix we've just done. That's Eshin Grey. Just a small amount of this in with that to darken it slightly, but not too much, because this is a slightly darker grey. So we don't want too much of it, or we don't want it too dark. We want it just dark enough for use. And get our finer detail brush, get into the paint, raise it to a point, and now we'll just go over the edges, making sure, of course, that we cover any of the areas that got caught with the what do we call it? The oh, what colour did we use? Iron breaker. Because we don't want this looking silvery, we want this looking grey. So, and that's the reason we do this. Because the last thing we want is for the cloth to look silver, because it's not going to look right. So we'll make sure that everywhere around the chainmail areas gets a little bit of this paint covering, just to make sure that it's not silver, to make it look as though it is actually cloth and not metal. There we go. Next job will be the blue tabard that's round the neck there. Add a little bit of this into that hole, and also into this area as well. Oops. Before going around to the front. And making sure everything on the front is done. As I'm making sure that we pay extra attention to round the chainmail areas to make sure that all the metallic colour is hidden. There we go. And now this shoulder here, there we go, that's one done. And we do the same for the other two. This time start at the front, and just in case you're wondering about the way it's moulded, it looks as though it's torn here and it's folded down and hanging off, so that's why I haven't done a different colour. So what I'm actually doing here is trying to get the majority of this colour on the folded down parts, and then along the bottom areas of the whatchamacallit, the main part of the outfit. So I'm trying to leave a little bit of shadow area in between where I can. Just so it doesn't look as though it's all one piece. And I don't think it looks too bad. Well said, just make sure all the metallic areas are covered that's on this particular tunic. Because the tunic isn't metal, it's cloth. There we go. So just give it a once over before you stop painting it, and make sure and if you do find there is a bit too much metallic colour near the parts where the folded area comes down, then we can go back and give it another light, very light wash, and that will be with the the Null Oil, a nice black wash, just so that it gives that differentiation between the two areas. There we go. And that's what we're going to have to do with these, but I'll show you on one. I'm not going to do them all, because once you've seen it in one, you've seen them all, really. So I'll just make sure, again, with these, that the metal areas are covered. It could be slightly difficult with some of these minis, depending on how, because you've dry brushed over, you know, some you can get more, others you can, some can get more than others because of the way the model is itself, because some you may not get the same height difference on two different models, or you may put a little bit more pressure on one than others. You know, it's not a exact science when you start dry brushing, so you will get differences, so don't worry about it if you do. It's not the end of the world. It just means a little bit of correction that needs doing, but you know, not the end, as I say, not the end of the world. And there we go. And that's it. Very simple. Now, as I said, what I'm going to do next is a little bit of highlighting on the helmet and the bolt. And for that, I will be using, when I can find it, Stormhost Silver. And we're going to do exactly the same as we did with the iron breaker, and that's a dry brush. So we get it on the brush, wipe it off as much as we can, and then just on here and on the top of the helmet, I'm doing this now before I start highlighting the actual bolt crossbow itself, because I don't want to do it after I've highlighted, because that's going to defeat the purpose of the dry brushing and highlighting. It's just a case of pop it on, and now we can go into highlighting the crossbow, and for that we're going to be using Dryad Bark, which is this colour. Now what I'm going to do first is make sure that it's all covered how I want it, so I'll just make sure. We'll go into this with a fine detail brush and make sure every area is covered. There we are. One's done. I mean, there may not be much areas that you need to do, but better doing it now than later. Or better doing it now and getting it right than wishing you'd done it later, if you get my drift. So we'll just make sure that all the areas that we want to be brown is brown. Basically any area that we think should be wood And I'm assuming the bolt is made of wood rather than metal, or the shaft of the bolt rather. No, the head would be metal. Yeah. And oops, not got much in the line of paint on that there. Drop my brush wide onto. And just make sure you say that everything is brown that you want brown. That bit probably is supposed to be metal, but I can always touch that up a little bit later. Okay, so that's that bit done. Now let's go back into the Screaming Skull, which is this one again. And we'll add a little bit of that to the palette, and into that we'll add some of the dryad bark. I want it to be a touch lighter, not dramatically lighter. And that will do. And make sure that brush is dry before we go into this next brush. And along the top areas, just add a little bit of this colour. There we are, and we'll go down the side a little bit as well, not too far. Same with this one, along the top. Right. And then down the side a little bit. And once more, oops, go down the side a little bit on this one. Now along the top. Again down the side, along the top. Yeah, next job is, as I say, just that little bit that I thought was all wood, but I'm thinking is now a bolt, metal rather. That will do with the Stormhost silver that we used to highlight. And we just get a little bit of that on our brush, not too much. And we'll just go over like so. The same here. And the same here. There we are. And now, as I said, we just want to add a little bit of a wash to the tunic, and that's with Nuln oil. And we don't want anything major. It's just below the torn areas, just to differentiate where the tur is Well, might as well do them all while I'm here. It's not going to be too much like hard work to get it all done. But you can see what I'm aiming at as well. There we are, that is all there is for this video. I hope you've enjoyed them. The BMO hashtag is still on these because it's still in the year. You know, it's a year long thing, you see. So that's the reason. We're trying to paint a model a week for an entire year. I think I've done more than that anyway, but I want to keep trying to get as many done as I can. Trying to get as many models done as I can in a week rather than just one. But there we go. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed it, as I say. The Hollow Crossbowmen are I think the last of the bad guys of this size. All the rest of them from Dark Souls are bigger minis. I'm going to save the hero minis for last on this game. I'm trying to get all the bad guys done first, mainly because I want to get to the big ones. So I said that's it for these ones. I don't think there's any more of this size. I might be wrong. I usually am, but let's just have a quick look at them, and then as we're doing that, I'll say until next time, as always, take care, God bless, and bye for now. In fact, no, it's not quite the end of the video because I've just realised, I've not highlighted the sashes. Oh dear. So let's get on with that. Cantor blue. Forget my head if it weren't screwed on. A little bit of Cantor blue. Into that, some of the Screaming Skull. Can't believe I missed this. Oh well. Let's get I'm doing this. It's same routine as every other time you highlight something. You highlight it where the light is going to hit. Make sure again you cover anywhere that is hit by the metal, and try and get around the cuts as well. Cuts and tears need to be highlighted slightly. I'm not a fan of the edge highlighting technique, but when there's a cut, I do find it does make it stand out that little bit more if you make sure you go around it with a highlight. There we are, that's one done. And you may have noticed I've not done the front here under the crossbow. That's because it's going to be mainly in shadow, so I didn't see much point in doing that. I'm trying to get the areas that are going to be hit by light, not that's being hit by shadow, because we're highlighting and not shading. There we are. So remember that as you're painting, don't hit the ones that are going to be hit by shadow, hit the ones that are going to be hit by light. And again, make sure that anywhere that is the silver colour on cloth is covered where the silver, if there's any silver areas on these cloths after you've dry brushed, make sure you've covered them. Because silver highlights only look good on metallic objects. And with that, I now will say, once again, take care, God bless, and bye for now. This is the Hollow Crossbowmen completed. I'll just wash my brush, and then you can have a proper look at them. Okay?